Hello.
Hello, I've hit the button. So we always start off with a little joke just to lighten the mood. Chris has spontaneously found one.
Are you ready for it?
I can't wait.
Why do you never see owls mating when it's raining?
Don't know.
Are you sure?
Really sure.
Because it's too wet to woo.
See, that's why people come here.
That's
now, if you're
magic people are here for, let's be honest.
That is a YouTube short right there. That's what it is, you know. And in these troubled times, Chris, I'm glad that you're here with the joke.
The internet is waiting. The internet.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, let's kick off. Boom. Welcome to the Good Brand Podcast. Good is a brand consultancy. We are in the United Kingdom. And we get together to talk about brand stuff. We work with clients all over the world because we like doing that, and it's good stuff. And then we've got thinking, thoughts. You can tell this isn't scripted, so we just take them think and we just have a little chat about things that we've written about on our website. This is almost like the director's commentary of our blog section. Do you like that? Do you like that?
That's beautiful.
So thanks everybody. And I'm joined. Well, first of all, my name's Stewart Steele. I work at Good, which is good. I'm joined as ever by Chris Lumsden.
Hello, I work at Good too.
Yep, and Julie Murdoch.
Hello.
Hello. And so, we're here for a chat.
And today, it's normally me that has to do all the interview. I get interviewed about what I've written, but Stuart's written a thing that I'm quite taken with, and it's bounced around my head. But it's got a weird title, Stuart. You wrote this thing called "What's That Coming Over the Hill? Is it a brand-eating monster?"
Yeah,
what
as you can tell,
are you talking about?
It wasn't SEO'd. It's not search engine optimization. That I read a couple of things, and then clients have been mentioning it for years. Clients talk about cheap Asian imports. It was always the kind of thing where we were talking about the future. Well,
in a pejorative sense,
and it's it was implied cheap, both in cost and in quality. And the clients were kind of we've got cheap Asian imports. We've always got to think about them. But it was seen as a distraction. It was seen as something that they're there, but we don't have to worry because we are us. We are us, and we are
because we're just we're inherently better.
And we've got it. And the challenge is over the last 5 years is that clients are still talking about it, but with a little bit more sense of concern. That and it's not necessarily that the product is now of a quality that is concerning. The price point is a point which is concerning because it's cheaper. And combining with that kind of thing, the products that they're now coming over is good enough. And what's interesting is that was still kind of there and it was thereabouts and it was fine. What's kind of interesting now is that if China have nailed manufacturing and have managed distribution, the next thing they seem to be learning from the West is brand. And you can see them starting to kind of flex some brand stories and trying to get into that market. And there's some examples of...
well, we talk about BYD, don't we? It's kind of the current best example of a something that looks pucker in terms of brand coming from China, right? It looks excellent, and the quality of the stuff and the quality of the product's superb. And it is, it's I think it's an interesting thing. I think it's also exacerbated in Europe anyway. We were just talking to a client about this tariff situation as well has skewed and made it even harder, I think, with some of that stuff kept flooding into Europe at cheaper prices. It's difficult stuff that was intended for the US that may not end up there, but it just makes it even harder, right?
Yeah, and these as I say in the article, they're building credibility. They're starting to tell stories, and what they're doing is making it harder for the end user, the buyers, to justify paying a premium. Because they're telling BYD are now well reviewed, they're smart, practical, well finished. They're all there. And so when they start telling that story and you look at the market, you kind of go, well, this is now a serious contender. It can't just be dismissed. It just can't be thrown away.
And I think that's where that's a slightly different conversation, I think, than to what you've flagged, Chris, in terms of the tariffs, which hopefully is a current and in the grand scheme of brand life cycles, relatively short term problem. The bigger concern, or I guess for clients and businesses in the West, is what is, like you say, that if the if China's getting their brand nous together, then what does that mean? Where you don't, if, like you say, when quality is on a par and price is lower, and there's a story that's there that's credible and authentic, what do you have? What do clients have that are actually remain as differentiators?
Well, before we get into and breaking all that down, is this something, Stuart, that are we do you think there's been a shift? Are we seeing a shift in this way? Is this something that's more common in terms of that conversation?
And even in the B2C, I mean, even in that, even with the couple, the one whiskey brand that we now work with, even they're kind of going, it's coming, it's there, and it's definitely more. Again, it was throwaway. It was a kind of like, it's coming, it's fine, everything else, but it's beginning. Whereas something was maybe a 1 minute conversation, and then there's these guys over here, this is, the competition over here. It's now becoming a 10, 15 minute, 20 minute conversation because, as I say in the article, there's a playbook happening, and you can see it even on brands that we're not like big brands like Hisense and everything else, but the playbook's the same across the board. They raise the quality, they undercut in price, and now the third part of this, which they've not all got yet, which has not got together, but then they're using brand to legitimize the offer.
I think and I don't know if it was, in terms of in that order, because I think it's definitely, like you say, becoming a more frequent conversation and concern. But going back 15 years, we worked with a client in the B2B tech space who always at that point talked a lot about cheap Chinese alternatives, but that were inferior in terms of product quality. So the quality of the product, the consistency of the product, combined with the kind of reputation of our client's brand, was, they were quite dismissive of the Chinese alternatives. So they did the price bit first, but then caught up on quality, and it caused them a problem. They massively cut their grass. It's not a new problem, but it's becoming a much, like you say, the conversation is definitely becoming one that's more considered and less throwaway.
So what is the solve? How do brands galvanize themselves against that? What are we saying here? That, I mean, it sounds that the brand eating monster's coming.
They're all fucked. Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to what's the differentiator. I don't think there's a lot of moats you can build around. There's not every category is going through that playbook. There's certainly some people that are, quality's been raised, price is undercut, but brand isn't coming to the fore. So I think as soon as there's blood in the water and the companies and the Far East kind of go, right, there is actually an opportunity. You get the sense that they're prodding and just kind of going, is this worth going for? Can we actually make big inroads? As soon as they feel they are big inroads, you start seeing spend on brand going up, legitimizing that offer. I think at the moment what you've got to do is make sure that your brand is ready and actually ready to fight it. So it's not a thing where you can rest on your laurels. I think you've kind of got to go, right, what can we do that they can't around the brand? So it might not even, we talked earlier on when we were prepping, first of all, better product. That would, continually innovating on the product.
Innovation.
There's probably other stuff around that, like what is the service we can offer? Is it set
there's
up?
Customer service, there's distribution, there's all that stuff that need to align to tighten up. Yeah, what you can do here that outperforms what comes from further away, right?
I think, and I think I would, also say because we have this conversation often about, sometimes the challenge, particularly in the B2B space, in actually securing that at board level, securing that consistent and continual investment in brand building activity. And I think there's one thing having your service and your product clearly defined and your ducks in a row in terms of the story, but you've also got to tell, then there's the point around mental availability and salience. Are you the brand that's front of mind when someone is looking for X, Y, or Z? And that only comes through a consistent investment in building those brand stories and building those brand perceptions.
100%, and I think that's what it's got. It's not a one and done. It's kind of there. I mean, we talked earlier on about Le Creuset, and because I watched a Wall Street Journal thing about it, and and it's an incredible place with a lot of heritage and brand, but you're kind of going, it's £250 for a pot. Can I just buy a Chinese one, which will look the same, will have the same quality? And I think one of the phrases in 2025 for me has been, it's good enough. And a lot of the kind of stuff, it is good enough now. It's not, if anything, changing the Far East perception of cheap, inferior imports is now kind of going, this is good enough and at a good price.
Is that not what happened to the luxury sector with the handbags, where, a handbag that was £7,000, people have found out that they're being made in the same factories that are selling them for, 700 or 70, it's interesting the way that, that stuff can be, that margin,
becomes
that premiumness can be destroyed.
But that's where I think the conversation around brand in the B2C space does fundamentally play a part, because literally the only thing you're then differentiating on is brand and the values that are associations that exist with. I could go and buy a knockoff
scarcity
Tiffany ring, but I want the experience of going into the store and getting the little blue box with Tiffany. I don't actually care about a Tiffany ring, but and see, and it's those, that's where that heritage. So, and it's not.
So your point is, it's the combination of other bits that make that whole experience important and valuable, and
but
worth
also,
the money.
I think if one of the definitions we have for brand is that it provides trust in a product for a customer. And so you've kind of then got to go, well, how are we positioning our brand to get the most trust built within our customer base? Well, what does trust look like in this space? And for example, a Hisense telly is it the fact that it's not going to break? I mean, we talked about Kia earlier on, and they built trust up with the 7-year warranty. That's how that's building trust within a brand, saying, look, your perception of this.
It's a product feature, but essentially it's doing all of those underlying, you can trust us not to break down. We're putting
and we'll put our money where our mouth is. Our perception is that you think we're going to be cheap and going to break, but actually we're going to counter that with the brand. So how are you putting that trust in your brand, especially in that B2B space where there's a lot of, the emotional thing is, I don't want to look stupid, primarily because I'm going to spend a lot of money on something and I don't want to look stupid. How are you building trust within your brand that somebody's going to buy it? And it goes beyond price. It goes, what protects you? So I think there's elements of that in there.
And as you talk about this, Stuart, I think, and to your point, Chris, about it's all the other stuff that's built around the core product that ultimately that helps in terms of making a difference. And
it's a difficult corner to be painted into to get yourself out of. But if brand is going to be the third leg in this chair, you've kind of got to take a look at it and go, are we ready? When they do decide, if they decide to kind of come for you, is your brand prepared for it? Because at the moment, price is difficult, quality and product is difficult, brand will be the differentiator, but you've got to make sure it's all true, and you've got to build stuff around that brand to build trust with that B2B customer.
Yeah, so things like, heritage, we talk about heritage, heritage brands have got, and your point about Le Creuset or some of the luxury brands we talked about, they pull that lever, don't they, heritage, and it can be a very powerful differentiator, and it's a well-trodden path, but it doesn't, and it gives you some deep roots, but it doesn't guarantee success or guarantee that you will prevail over these imports, because price does play a part at some point. But it's about being sure you're match fit, right, and you're ready as much as possible. The rest of it's about the other stuff, the other bits, the customer service, the after sales, parts, whatever it is got to be slick. The regionality of it may actually work for you in certain types of purchases. Yes. You just talked about, big B2B expensive purchases. I think sometimes people want to go and knock on the door and have a look round and make sure that the headquarters are, pucka. That may be that these kind of things begin to play a more important experiential role in the brand.
And I think just as to kind of build on that as well, we talked about the kind of the importance of trust and heritage, and from a brand perspective. And you've talked about the kind of the number of people that are involved in a B2B decision making process and how difficult kind of impacting or influencing change, particularly probably in the B2B, well, not necessarily particularly, but in the B2B tech space that we see, the risk of change or the risk of something fucking up as a result of somebody making a decision that changes something or adopting a new technology or whatever that may be. It's that kind of, how do I, is this worth the risk of me getting fired in terms of, somebody involved in that decision-making process? So that, the point being that kind of the trust element of a well-defined, a well-established, a well-trusted brand is presumably, is a hugely important factor that can't be delivered with the same credibility as a cheaper, newer entrant to the market. Arguably. Yet, and that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that, so I mean, I end the article with no solution, which is my favourite kind of article, and basically what I kind of say at the end is like, if your brand strategy is static, you're already behind. If you've kind of looked at it, that's not happening. I would suggest that if you are leaning in heritage, that's going to be a challenge, because I do think it will, it's how do you use that? I think the divide between us and them, because that's what it always, it's us and them, it's now level, and in some markets they're already playing better. So I think the kind of article basically sums up with the fact that you've just got to be aware of it at the moment. Have you dismissed it and just kind of waved it away because it will roar up behind you, but how did you lose market share is probably, slowly then quickly, is probably where it goes. And I think it's just being ready for it, aware of it, and aware of it. There isn't a magic bullet to fix this.
Do you think there are some industries that are more prone to it than others? Some brand areas?
I honestly can't think of an exception, not that I've thought about it too hard, but I mean,
the reason I asked that question is because you have been doing quite a lot of calls across different customer groups of ours and different sectors, and it's something, as you mentioned it earlier, but you talk about it quite a lot. It comes up in areas that you didn't necessarily think it would be I guess in some technical, electronic-y type technical manufacturing space is probably the first space, because there's margin to be cut there, because there's lots and lots of parts that can be, at play. But we're seeing it in other things.
I have, without giving away names, I thought somebody said, how do you get over this? And they kind of go, it's always about innovation. We've got to just innovate out. And I think that's right. But I think, especially if you read the book about how Apple taught China how to manufacture recently, that innovation gap is very, very, very slim now. I mean, I think it's right. I think it's definitely an approach you can take. We've just got to have a better product. We've just got to innovate more. It's not copycat anymore. I think that's the interesting thing. They're not trying to copy things. They're trying to innovate as well, which for consumers will probably be great. Consumers, both B2B and B2C, that we benefit from that innovation competition. But I do think if you're a business, it's kind of, it's scary, and you've just got to make sure, you've just got to keep a closer eye on it. That's what our clients are doing. They don't necessarily have an answer at the moment, but they're definitely keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, and these broader geopolitical challenges are just at play, and they might not be there for a long time, but they're certainly disruptive, and they skew the market. So are we saying then that brand is not going to investing in brand is not ultimately going to save you in this, but it can help galvanize you against some of the challenges because you're match fit effectively?
Well, I think if your business is ready, if brand is the shield that you're hoping of trust to help protect your customers from making a wrong decision, I think you've got to invest in brand in that, because what you've then got to do is, it is a wrong decision to go with competitor
and to continually invest in it. It's not a one and done.
No, right? You can't, because they're always going to be there. And when I say competitors, the benefit of that competitor push is all against every competitor, not just one from the Far East, but at least there's just going to be more competition, because if they think that there's going to be margin to gain, as you say, Chris, I think they're going to come for you. And it's just making sure you're ready to say, look, you've got to trust us. You have to trust us because of this, because of that. You've got to have that ready. I think the danger is suddenly you wake up in the morning, you look at your, you look at your latest quarterly report, you see the market share's gone down maybe for the third time. This is the third quarter it's gone down. You go, wonder what that is. Then you're playing catch up, and that's going to be, that's an impossible place to be. So it's just making sure that you're out in front of it.
Last week, Stuart, you said you were going to put this to the test because you'd ordered some lights from a Chinese website or something to see what the quality was like, and they were $4. Did they arrive?
Oh, no. The lights were good quality. They were Chinese. Yeah, they did arrive. I'm using them now. No, the lights were always good quality.
Lights?
Were they $4?
No, they weren't $4. No, they definitely were not $4. Let's not go into price. Right?
It's obviously he's trying to.
Let's just say I saved some money.
So
even with the very big.
So by buying them, you saved some money from the premium brand.
No, this is a good brand. It's a good brand. It was just basically, I was more interested in the AliExpress experience, which I don't recommend because, I got hit with a very large import custom, even though it did say on it, all VAT paid. That turns out to be a lie. So again, trust, trust. That turned out not to be true. And then my partner, who will remain nameless, picked up the thing from the post office. Goes, so what's this? I went, no, don't you worry about that, princess. Look. Let's watch a murder mystery on Netflix. So
it had nothing to do with it.
Story of Stuart's life.
I know.
It's what they were neither cheap nor better.
Oh no, they were not cheap, and they are better. They're good lights. They're great lights. I knew they were. I wouldn't have bought. I was not going to spend.
I wouldn't have bought rubbish.
I wouldn't have bought rubbish. Hell no. But I also then bought the same light because I needed one more at the weekend over on Amazon in the UK, and it came the next day, and I felt a lot. And I'm protected by British consumer law as opposed to So I mean, trust that kind of thing. AliExpress does not build up trust yet, even though on paper. Well, on digital.
So when you scale that into
B2B,
scale that up to a huge expensive purchase in the B2B sense, and it counts for a lot.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's not that it doesn't matter anymore. It's just that you can't solely rely on it anymore because they're obviously, with factors like quality and price. Price has always been the kind of, I guess if these alternatives have led with price as a differentiator, but now the quality and other aspects of it are catching up, then it's just you can't solely lean into trust and heritage and expect people to be there for the long haul if something more credible is nipping at your heels.
It's coming at your heels, absolutely. Yeah. But I can now run an entire news organisation from my from this room because I've got all the lights, got everything. I've got it all now.
Literally all the gear and none.
A fire risk. Yeah. Very good. So is that us then?
Aye, that was good. That was good.
That was interesting. I mean, we haven't resolved anything, but it's just an interesting thing that we're saying.
Get your shit together.
Anyone got any thoughts? Feel free to share.
I like it. All right, smashing.
It's been nice being all back together again. We've been doing a lot with guests.
I know.
It's nice to get back together.
I know.
That's Julie back in the fold.
I know. It's nice. It's nice. Right, watch the roads.
Right.
Okay. See you soon.